Glad news, Lord Ormond. There is a new
House of the Dragon video.
We heard rumour of this.
House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 3 is here, and it's my favourite of the season so far, actually. I suspect that might be an uncommon opinion because there are issues. Some of the decisions strike me as odd. And again, I'm finding some of the dialogue just a little bit clunky this season. Never terrible, but just occasionally ever so slightly flat. Nonetheless, I love this episode because it delivers on the two things I most want out of these episodes. One is the political nuance, the headaches, the dilemmas, the precarious sense that it is constantly so very easy to make mistakes that might be catastrophic, and likewise, so hard to know when your gambits are brilliant or not. I've long argued that House of the Dragon, when at its best, feels like a satire, a bunch of power-hungry elites squabbling in the dirt that cause abject tragedy, but that can also feel darkly comedic at times. Like Season 2, Episode 2 is my favourite episode for this reason, Aegon making mistake after mistake while Otto rages like Malcolm Tucker from the thick of it. I wouldn't say the satire has been so prominent this season, but you can viscerally feel the political cyclone Rhaenyra is caught in. And you know, I find it hard to know where to draw the line sometimes, because when should I take the stupid mistakes characters are making here as like flaws in the writing, or when should I see them as very human mistakes, that this story is a tragedy. It's a story of people failing at politics again and again, and all of it leading to the worst outcome possible. I kind of feel a little on the fence this time about the whole Darragh thing. Like, it's wildly stupid of Daemon not to make sure that this is Darragh who's taken his awards, to make sure that the dragon is definitely this kid's, to maybe have a just keep an eye on where this army is heading to make sure they are going where you sent them. But at the same time, that kind of is a mistake Daemon might make that is sort of in keeping with his character. I find it hard to know where to draw the line sometimes. So maybe not that example, but give or take most of them here, it works really well this episode. And secondly, I love House of the Dragon when it feels like it's setting up a lot of ominous seeds for the future, a lot of tragic foreshadowing. And it tries this a lot sometimes in more cinematic ways that don't always work. Like last episode, it ended with an ominous shot of Alicent and Rhaenyra staring each other down after Otto's execution, building up the feeling of, oh, get ready, this is going to cause disaster, Alicent is going to be fuming, and then obviously it can't deliver on that, at least not initially, because Alicent has no power, and as much as I don't think it truly crossed her mind Otto would die when she ceded the city, in her mind Otto was in Hightower at the time, and she was very wishfully refusing to grasp the reality of the war. As much as that's true, it's hardly surprising he would be executed. So you go from the fabric of the show itself trying to build up suspense about something for the sake of the next episodes that then immediately dissipates as the two of them just talk quietly with only muted conflicts this time. House of the Dragon, I think, has often been at fault of trying to manufacture tension over things that it can't then deliver on, just to make the ending of episodes feel more climactic. But this time, this episode absolutely works, and there is an absolute ton of stuff set up that it can and will deliver on, and I am now fully invested this season. I said before I'd been enjoying the season, but that I don't yet feel gripped. Well, now I think I finally am. So if you want to see what the hell I'm talking about, then stick around and watch this cool train. So I think one of the things that worked best about this episode was the pace. The pace hasn't been that bad the last two episodes for the most, but obviously when there's been so many moving parts and you were adapting what were originally the end of Season 2 episodes into the start of Season 3, the structure ends up slightly disjointed, and the job of the structure was a lot easier in this episode where it is so heavily focused on a single character in Rhaenyra. And very simply, it goes like this. Rhaenyra begins the episode saying she wants to do right by her father. She wants to be a just, merciful, virtuous queen. Then she encounters a billion situations that highlight how complicated justice can be, and a lot of things go wrong until she's staring into a big fire, burning all of the Green's tapestries, ruminating on whether or not to bathe all of Tumbleton in Dragonfire. It's a really clear, straightforward progression. doesn't have to be massively complicated. Sometimes it's best not to be, because it's so easy to follow and then so easy to get immersed in the episode as a result. Rhaenyra is so much the centre of this episode through so many, often back-to-back scenes, that it can almost feel like the camera was just tracking her non-stop through the Red Keep. With so much movement, so many scenes happening while she's walking corridors, or scaling stairs, or entering room after room, bumping into people all the time. Obviously this is to convey how much she needs to be doing and how busy she is, but I think the mixture of so much movement we can see, often through quite cramped locations that keep changing, you just viscerally feel how suffocated she is this episode. Really great directing, really effective. But it's not just about showing her busyness either. Rhaenyra feels very light on her feet, but also pulled in so many different directions. All of this movement creates the feel that she's not actually going anywhere in particular. There's like this no clear destination she's progressing to, but is instead just walking back and forth between the same corridors, opening different doors but never really getting anywhere new, kind of just going in circles, and that too is really effective to convey what ruling feels like for her now. A dizzying, suffocating cycle of things that need doing, always feeling under pressure and scrutiny but never able to breathe or to succeed tangibly. And thirdly here, there are some times where she's not light on her feet, you'll notice, and it's the times when the grief rolls up like a great wave. Her opening shot this episode, she is very still. She is reflecting on her father's ghost. When she thinks she sees Jace, she pauses, the same when she sees Baylor. When she has to be still in the night in order to sleep, she can't do it. There's too many ghosts, but also too much grief, where keeping light on her feet helps her to evade the feelings that are nonetheless breaking free. I've said this episode after episode, but Rhaenyra, I think, is finally starting to turn quite dark now, or at least driven into darker behaviour. And one of the reasons I think for that is not processing the grief, trying to evade it and only channel it into revenge or rage, as much as Damon is pretty much correct here, and mostly was last episodes, that she has to act, she has to focus on her actions, she has to be strong for the sake of political pragmatism. She can't afford to be sitting here processing her feelings right now. But that doesn't also mean that going a more Damon route isn't feeding a lot of bad impulses that could easily get carried away. He's not wrong, but there's also an issue here, you know? And secondly, there's the sense of betrayal, I think. Maybe this is just me, but Rhaenyra this episode faintly reminds me of Theon's chapters in The Clash of Kings, where he captures Winterfell and talks a big game about how kind and fair he's going to be to the people there, but like, he just invaded their home, so obviously they don't feel warmth towards him. But to Theon, this feels like a spit in the face. Like, I've offered you this kindness, why won't you accept me for it? Why do they loathe me so much? I've been good to you, I've given them trust, why are they throwing it back in my face? And it leaves him feeling angry towards them out of rejection. And I think that rejection there has a lot to do with Theon's feelings about his father, and about Ned Stark as a father figure, and all sorts of things I talked about in a massive, like, hour, I think, long psychological analysis of Theon as a character from the books. Here we don't have quite that much psychological depth, I don't think, for Rhaenyra. I think this is more to do with being a woman in a man's world, ruling as a woman, trying to prove that the faith her father showed in her was right. Something along those lines. I haven't actually thought it through that much yet, but either way, I think we see shades of that similar sort of rejection feeling in how she's convinced Alicent tricked her out of the Treasury Gold when they were supposed to have a deal. She thinks it was Alicent's doing at first, and then Ormond obviously tricks her out of awards in Daeron Targaryen, and she takes it like a humiliation and a personal slight. It makes her look foolish and outplayed, and when she's very clearly already feeling insecure this episode about her capacities as a ruler and whether or not people will approve, this then hurts twice as bad. The final shot of her by the flames is great and very ominous, but there are other ominous things afoot as well, I think.
Though I must say, I think Ulf there would very much enjoy
51% off World Anvil.
Would you like to be Lord of...
World Anvil.
World Anvil! Yep, they are sponsoring this video. World Anvil is an online tool for game masters, for writers, for tabletop RPG players and world builders. An online tool for designing worlds, creating characters, chronicling history, planning and managing campaigns from a plethora of different games. My best friend uses it for our D&D campaign, I use it for planning my novel. Far better and easier than the scraps of random A4 paper stuffed into a drawer that used to constitute my creative process. Not only can I keep everything in one place where I can easily edit anything I want to, but I can create timelines, hyperlinks branching off to specific characters or articles, family trees, billion other things. You can even link them all to maps. Like, here's this basic map I made years ago. If I click on the character Tess, it sends me straight to her page where everything is redacted. And that's like the most basic thing you can do with your maps. There's other creators whose world building looks so much nicer than mine. There's a whole community network on World Anvil, if that's your thing. There's so many different cool features for everything you may possibly need. In general, there's been lots of great updates recently, making the interface even simpler and smoother than it already was. World Anvil is great. I am genuinely passionate. I hope you can hear that. And if you desire, if you crave, if you call to the heavens for a 51% discount, then use the code TREE, or click the link in the description or the pinned comment. And if you just want to try out the free version, then go for it. There's no time limit. Test it out for as long as you want. World Anvil. I think a big part of what Rhaenyra struggles with this episode is feeling under scrutiny and under pressure, and that is understandable. She effectively just captured a city and has inherited a ton of its issues, many of which she created with the blockade. She hasn't been there for years, she wasn't anointed, she is a woman in a man's world ruling. That's a lot to handle, but I think she's so anxious not to make any mistakes that she's actually making more. She's so anxious to win round this city of people and this new kingdom effectively with all sorts of subjects who will have taken egg on side and likely still do. She wants to make them approve of her because A, it spares her that very Theon feeling of being rejected we mentioned. B, it spares her having to rain fire and blood in all the ways Daemon keeps telling her is essential. She calls herself the conciliator like Jaehaerys.
I come before you as a conciliator.
But is this the right time for that yet? The war isn't actually over. But C, the biggest problem with all of this I think is her eagerness to win new people round causes her to forget to maintain the approval and loyalty of those she already has. I think that should probably be her priority right now. Her mind sort of switches off to that, you know? Is Daemon happy? Is Corlys happy? The Dragon Seeds, are they happy? Those are her strongest allies and she really, really needs them right now. Her small council she has completely left behind, which, whatever we might think of them, they still have their uses. This is a bad political blunder from her, I think. Otherwise, suddenly she's the one they're asking of what to do about the supply of candles in the Red Keep or the price of wine tripling. And you know, regarding the lords and ladies, as much as I'm all for taxing the rich, I don't think depleting the stores of people you need as allies just to make what is technically a very short-term cheap gesture and a political stunt for the small folk is the smartest in the long term. She doesn't need political stunts right now, she needs tangible power. I don't think refusing to name Ulf a Targaryen or Adam a Velaryon will keep those two people with big dragons at all happy in the long term, and obviously not Corlys himself either. We see him here repeating the words of his brother Vaemond now, and where at the time Vaemond was executed on the spot for saying that, Rhaenyra can't really do anything this time. She needs him. Hugh's an interesting one as well, I think, because he's the most straightforward. He's not asking for riches or renown or fancy titles. He's a humble man who just wants safety and food for his family. His request is such a simple one.
I was wondering what sort of living I may expect.
We will set aside a house for you on Visenius Hill.
And when might that be?
I am awash in dilemmas and deficiencies. Let me find my footing, and I will attend to your requests.
And her response, like, firstly, of course, this isn't her top priority right now. There's so many other things that matter more, but I think admitting that it isn't, that's not the best answer, because this is a guy who has a dragon. And also, perhaps if she did have a small council or just more people here, she could say, I'll tell whoever to deal with it. I'll refer you to him. They'll get it sorted immediately, rather than just a vague answer of, I promise you it will happen at some point. Just wait and trust that I don't totally forget this amidst all the other a billion things I have to do. But also, Rhaenyra promises you a home on Visenius Hill, which, if I'm not mistaken, I might be, I've only recently been reading Fire and Blood, is where all the merchants live. Maybe Hugh is happy with that, he is a humble man, but it feels like another insult to his new position and status that totally wasn't necessary, to not offer him a house in a, whatever the other hill's called, where the fancier people live. Rhaenyra's technically done very little to consolidate her power this episode. She was eager to believe the war was already over when in fact the end of this episode makes it clear it definitely isn't. Ormond has now taken Tumbleton, which is particularly interesting because that's where Hugh's wife is, and what will happen if Rhaenyra does set the town ablaze. This is my favourite kind of foreshadowing, when the story isn't so much making a big hint of, ooh, wait for this to happen, that it is just setting up a natural progression of cause and effect. We see a lot of things happen this episode, a lot of decisions made, where even without needing to hint what the consequences will be, we can logically sense that a fallout is coming as a result of them. We can sense Rhaenyra ransacking the lords and ladies' stores will come back to bite her. We can see Corlys's loyalty waning, Daemon's willingness to obey waning, so many different things. Almost every decision Rhaenyra makes this episode leaves an ominous sense in your mind about where it might be heading, and that's great. That's what I wanted more of. Not a single very overt bit of foreshadowing, but layer upon layer of cause and very worrying effect. I think this episode is great. Again, I'm not always sold by all of the dialogue and all of the decisions the characters made, but I can always trust Emma D'Arcy and Matt Smith in particular to raise it several levels just through their acting chops, like sometimes even in the simplest moments, like the way Daemon says delightful.
I will submit.
Delightful.
Or chuckles about Lord Jasper's death.
Oh dear.
Feels so uniquely Daemon. The way Rhaenyra immediately looks away after naming Adam of Hull, not Adam Velaryon.
And Adam of Hull.
We've seen big, heavier scenes from both of them time and time again, but sometimes it's a tapestry of the little mannerisms that make the performance most effective. I loved this episode, a strong 9 out of 10 for me, but what did you all think? Comment your thoughts, good or bad. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, maybe even support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Flying Spider, Luke Gore, Michael Gallagher, Emery, Faithy, TQM, Kinesthetic, Maury, Sebastian, Alicia, Chad Bramwell and Joshua C. Follier. Thank you.